Call the roll. Terry Duenas. Marilyn Fifield. Marilyn with us yet? Deb Converse.
Here.
Catherine Garofoli. Catherine, you with us?
Yep, here, sorry.
Farley Lewis.
Here.
Steve Robichaud.
Here.
James Tenalia.
Here.
And Lindsay Council's here. That's 7, so I think we can go ahead. 6, I'm sorry. Not here is Tom Lee, Terry Duenas, and Marilyn. Okay. Next item is approval of the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from November 21st, 2022. Is there a motion? Everyone had a chance to go over those?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. This is Deb. I'll make a motion that we accept the draft minutes as sent.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes from November? Seeing none, I'll poll the members. Terry, have you arrived? No. Marilyn Fifield? Not here yet. Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Okay. Next, we move on to applications. And I believe, Steve, you were going to recuse yourself from this one?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Application from the Unitarian Church of Barnstable requesting $300,000 in community preservation historic funds for the restoration and preservation of the church tower, pavilion, and nave. The total cost of this project is $471,010.80, with a Massachusetts Historical Commission grant for $70,000 and $100,000 in private donation provided as matching funds. There's an existing preservation restriction recorded on this property. Whom do we have for presentation?
Crystal Gibbs from the Unitarian Church.
Go right ahead, Crystal. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Sorry to interrupt, Lindsay. I just want to let you know that Marilyn is joining right now.
Marilyn is in. Thanks, Marilyn.
Thank you, Lindsay, and it's good to be here and see you all again. I appreciate your taking the time to review our application and to share part of this meeting with us so that we can make our presentation. I'd like to introduce you to Sean Willett, Principal Architect from the Spencer Preservation Group, and Lynn Spencer, who is the principal of the group, is also here. Sean has prepared a presentation to give you the summary of the project, and then we'll be glad to enter into conversation with you. Sean, would you like to go ahead?
Thanks for having me. Is the best way for me to just verbally indicate for slides to change? Is that the best way for us to do this?
Yes, that would be great.
Excellent. All right. I'll try to run through fairly quickly. So our involvement with this firm started in 2020 through 2021, where we provided a conditions assessment and a master plan for the building to identify areas where the church needs repair, restoration. There were some concerns in the cupola. And before we talk a little bit about the project that is about to happen, that is underway, I want to kind of bring everybody up to speed with where we have been and where we started with that assessment. Next, please. Like I said, we provided a comprehensive conditions assessment of the exterior building. Next, please. We looked at, given it's a pretty important building, turn of the century, colonial Greek revival, about 1907. Its architect was Guy Lowell. He's also known for doing the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, the Harvard Emerson Hall, and the New York State Supreme Courthouse, among many others. Next, please. We were fortunate enough to have access to the original blueprints, which we used as the basis for our drawings, which helped us significantly. Next, please. And we went through all aspects of the building from the top to the bottom to the systems, inside, outside, assessing the condition of the woodwork, the paint, the clapboards, the dome, the structural framing. Next, please. With a particular interest in the cupola and its dome, which has current leaks, water infiltration, considerable deterioration of the woodwork, especially right below that clock. You can see a piece of wood board siding coming right off. Next, please. As well as some interior structural concerns with the framing and work that had been done over the years, but with ongoing water infiltration, those patches have started to fail, and we'll be addressing those. Next, please. As part of our conditions assessment, we prepared a prioritized repair recommendation list, which assessed the short-term and the long-term needs with outline plans and outline specifications for the purposes of the report. Next, please. And very recently, we completed full plans and specifications to actually put this project out to bid, which would actually put into action those repairs that we assessed in our report. Next, please. So I'd like to walk everyone through kind of a quick run through on what the scope entails, because we have actually put this project out to bid and received pricing, and we have entered into a contract with a qualified contractor. Next. And you can hit next pretty much every time I finish my little sentence, because we're just going to run through. But the scope summary includes regilding the weather vane and replacing their copper dome, reinforcing the interior wood framing of the belfry, repairing deteriorated wood trim and moldings throughout the belfry and the rest of the church. We are replacing missing urns and repairing and repainting the belfry louvers. We are replacing all copper flashings in the belfry floor to improve the water management of this building. Repainting all the exterior woodwork and siding throughout. Regilding their gold clock on 3 sides. The rear doesn't have gold. Selectively replacing deteriorated siding at the base of the tower and selectively throughout the building. Replacing deteriorated gutters and downspouts throughout. And lastly, repainting all the exterior woodwork and siding throughout. Thank you. We've put this project out to bid in keeping with the 3-week bidding period and requirements of the Massachusetts Historic Commission. Next, please. We identified a lowest qualified bidder, Village Green Restoration. Next, please. They're from East Falmouth and Mashpee, which is probably one of the reasons why we're able to solicit such a favorable bid from them. They work local and we can save a lot there. They've worked on recent projects such as the New Bedford Whaling Museum, the Atwood Higgins House in Wellfleet, and the Hurd Chapel and Meeting House in Orleans, so they're no strangers to working on the Cape. Next, please. And we've already had a kickoff meeting with construction anticipated to begin on February 1st. Next, please. As of right now, we've broken out our budget, which I will allow Crystal to speak a little bit more to. And we're ready to move forward with this project. We have a great contractor on board. They really demonstrated their capability and the confidence we have in them during their pre-construction meeting. And we're really looking forward to moving forward with this much needed project.
What you see on the left in the vertical column of items and figures is the way in which the bid categories were listed in the bid documents and the amounts that Village Green bid in each of those cases. So the total acceptable base scope plus the total acceptable alternatives and a contingency and architectural and engineering fees gave us a total of $471,950.80. I particularly like the 80 cents part. The total budget, which includes both the immediate work, which is detailed in the left column, and long-term work that is within the next 10 years, gives us a total of $680,225.80. So we are asking you in our application and this evening for a contribution of $300,000. We have received an official award from the Massachusetts Historic Commission of $50,000, which is their maximum award when they go through the process of assessing applications that they get. And then we have been told that we will get another approximately $20,000 because they have a little extra. We expect that we will be able to contribute over time $380,000 from our capital campaign, which we are engaged in at this point. So that gets us to the total of 680 in rough numbers.
Is that it for your presentation?
That's it.
That's it.
We are happy to answer any further questions.
Members, questions?
Got a couple. How much have you raised to date on the capital campaign? And of the, other funds, it looks like you'll be actually over by about 70,000 if you do hit your goal. Do you anticipate that you guys will not be coming back to us in the future?
We think that we are going to raise enough so that we do not have to come back. We also have other expenses that are not a part of this project that we're raising money for, but they are facilities expenses and grounds expenses. So we think that with the contribution we've asked for, we should be in good shape and be able to finish the entire project.
Okay. And how much have you guys raised on that so far?
We're up around 300,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, members? Seeing none, anyone have a thought for a motion or?
Just a comment, Lindsay, if I may.
Certainly.
We've known this is coming for a long time, and I think they've done a very thorough job. I love the little bullet points, by the way, going down the whatever you call it, belfry, because it made it clear as you went along. And I just make a motion that we move this to, well, it's an application that we accept this application for $300,000 from the Community Preservation Historic Park.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I wanted to open it up for public comment. If anyone there is to speak to public comment.
Lindsay, do you mind if I just add one thing?
Certainly.
I just want to say that Village Restoration, I've had some experience with them as well, and they were top notch. I think that this is excellent that you're using a local contractor that's been able to meet your bid in a positive way. I've really value Ethan very much, and so I think that's terrific.
Good.
Excellent.
Very good. Anyone from the public like to comment on this application?
Marilyn has her hand up.
Marilyn?
Thank you.
Shoot.
I just wanted to congratulate the church on getting support from the Massachusetts Historical Commission. I think it's important to have their support, not only the money, but the historic preservation restriction and their approval and their guidance. So thank you and congratulations for that.
Thank you. And they've been very helpful to date. They're in the process of preparing their restriction, and we expect that will be complete soon.
Good.
Any other comments by anyone? We would have to amend the motion because there's only 261,000 in the historic preservation category. So 39,000 would have to come from the undesignated.
Okay.
With that friendly amendment.
Yes.
Everyone clear? No other questions regarding this?
Good.
So the motion would be to approve the application of the Unitarian Church of Barnstable for $300,000 for the restoration of the front of the church and the belfry. Everyone clear on what they're voting?
Yep.
I'll call the roll. Marilyn Fifield?
Aye.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud is abstaining. James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much, Crystal, and good luck going forward. We do have to schedule you with the town council before you can expend any of the community preservation funds. But we look forward to getting that on their docket, and we'll get this approved.
Crystal, you're muted.
Okay. Next item is,
Thanks very much.
let's see, application of the Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills Water Department requesting $100,000 to enable COMM to obtain professional services necessary to quickly respond to potential properties as they become available for protection of COMM Water District drinking water supply. You've all seen this one as well. Similar to what we did for Hyannis Water. Craig, did you want to add anything to your application at this point?
No, not at this point, but I just wanted to say thank you to the committee for working with us, and we hope to continue that relationship in the future.
Anyone else out there for questions?
Lindsay?
Craig, go ahead, Deb.
It's just thank you for the map, showing us where the water fields are. It was really interesting. And having lived off Lumbert Mill Road, it's sort of like it all, flowed in. So I appreciate that. And I think you're very progressive asking for this money before you need it. So it's a good idea. So I don't know, is it too quick for me to make a motion to accept the application and move it on?
No, it's not.
Okay, well, I could do that and it would come out of recreation / the other funds we have.
Open space.
Open space. Of course, that's what it is.
That's right.
Right, it's uneaten dinner. So I make a motion that we move that forward.
Second.
Is there a second? Catherine, thank you. Any questions from members on the motion or? Seeing none, I'll open it to the public for public comment. Anyone out there wish to weigh in on this request of COMM? Chris, go ahead.
Yes, I would support that. I know that when we have been, Lindsay and I served on the town's original open space committee, and the number one reason for purchasing open space, it was for municipal water. So I think that it continues to be by far the most noble reason for expenditure of funds like this. Glad you could come forward.
Thank you. Anyone else out there care to speak to this matter before the committee? I think we have a rather simple motion to approve the application of Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills Water Department, $100,000 for obtaining professional services necessary to acquire property for the protection of our water supply. That funding would come out of the open space and recreation section of our set-asides. Everyone clear on the motion? Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much, Craig, for coming in. We'll be in touch about going forward and bringing this to the council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along here. Next, we have the two bikeway proposals. An application from the Department of Public Works requesting $300,000 in open space and recreation funds for the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 4 pre-25% design services. Matching funds in the amount of $500,000 have been provided by a Mass Trails grant. And Paul Graves is all teed up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. Sarah, I wonder if you would be able to pull up the map for this project, please. That's phase 3. That'll be the next item. Could you flip it to the other one, please? Thank you. So 2 months ago, I presented this information to CPC, and we're here tonight, obviously, to present the full application. In a nutshell, this project would continue the Cape Cod Rail Trail from its planned termination of Phase 3 at Mary Dunn Road in Barnstable. It would meander along the available, preferred routes that have already been vetted and approved, all the way to the town line with Sandwich. We're showing it in 3 phases because typically when we request TIP funding, that's state transportation project funding, typically they have a limit on how much they can provide per cycle. And so we're trying to break it up we're planning to break it up into 3 phases to facilitate that. This length that is proposed is about 10 miles. And it would include numerous different attractions and destinations along the way that would be suitable for path users. Path users would include any pedestrian or bicycle or similar uses. For example, if it snows in the winter, people can cross-country ski on it. If someone wants to ride their horse on it, they can. But it does not allow motorized vehicles. And it will, of course, be a critical, it will close a critical gap in the Cape Cod Rail alignment that is proposed from the canal to Provincetown. And much of that already exists in several of the towns east of ours. The project funding that we're requesting here is $300,000, and the reason for that is this is a very large project, and so we're in the phase of pre-25% design, where that aligns with Mass DOT processes, because when we go to construct this, we're going to be requesting Mass DOT funds for that. So the overall project cost for construction is anticipated to be in the neighborhood of $20 million for all of this. So the funding that we're requesting here will be leveraged many times over if and when we receive that Mass DOT construction funding. We had requested $800,000 from Mass Trails, which is part of the State Division of Conservation and Recreation. They did provide us a $500,000 grant for the surveying and preliminary design services in this project at this stage. However, that was $300,000 short of what we need. And so we are requesting it from CPC. In the November meeting, when I presented the letter of intent, there was a comment from at least 1 or 2 people requesting that in the next round of Mass Trails grants, we seek that additional funding from them. We are in the process of preparing that application. The next round of applications are due next week, actually, and it will likely be several months before they announce who gets that round's grant awards. Typically, that happens in June or July. In the event that CPC approves the funding that we're requesting here, and then we get a Mass Trails grant that would cover it, we would be in a position to then return the CPC funds. But I cannot predict what the chances are. Oftentimes when Mass Trails issues a grant to a project, they many times do not in the following cycle issue another one because they want to have some diversity in their awards and not necessarily they want many communities to benefit. So I don't know what the chances are that we'd get the Mass Trails grant in this round, but we'll submit it. At the same time, it would be very helpful if CPC would decide to provide that funding so that our current stage of this project can be made whole. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Members, questions?
I don't have
Pretty
a question, but just a comment. After our last meeting, I had actually a good number of people approach me from the community who are very, very excited about these next couple phases. So definitely a lot of interest out there on it.
Thank you.
Farley?
Yeah, I'm just curious as to what this actual design process is. Is it to create the route, to come up with the materials, the engineering aspects of it, or I mean, are you getting right of ways? I'm not sure exactly what the design process is with all this.
That's understandable. I should have explained it more. So a couple of years ago, we already went through the process of looking at route alternatives and presenting that to the public and getting extensive input. And so the route has been decided at this time, according to that map that was up a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, of course, when we do the steps that we're now taking, which are there's extensive land surveying needed,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can develop the base plans, the existing condition plans along that entire route.
Mm-hmm.
And then the engineers that we've hired would begin the preliminary design, which is, starting to put the actual lines on there that correspond with the generalized lines that are in that map I showed you, and looking at grade slopes, making, there's hundreds, if not thousands of potential conflict points, so any trees that might need to be, cut down as a result. Obviously, we don't want to cut down too many trees, but any utility poles that might be in the way and need to be relocated, any fire hydrants, all of that, comes to light when we have the survey completed, which, again, this is an enormous project lengthwise. And when we actually get that put on plans and have the preliminary design superimposed on it, so that then we can present it to MassDOT, request that funding, and assuming that they approve it, they have approved for previous phases of the rail trail to fund construction. Then it continues through their process, which involves preparing 25% plans, getting them reviewed, going to a public hearing, getting that input, revising the plans if appropriate based on that input, and then going to 75% design, which becomes more detailed than a 100% design, more detailed than final bid documents and so forth. It's going to be several years to complete that project unless something very unexpected happens. So where we're not at the beginning, we've done the route study and had that public input, but we're right at the beginning of the actual design, the very preliminary beginning of the design, like I say, with the surveying and the initial preliminary design that then gets refined later in the process.
Okay. And one last question. Is this an impervious surface throughout?
Yes, this will be a paved, asphalt paved, except in locations where we require curb ramps. We generally do those in cement concrete because we're better able to meet the strict tolerances for ADA requirements. But the vast majority of it will be asphalt, and it will be 12 feet wide, and again, about 10 miles long.
Okay.
And there will be there's a proposed bridge across Route 132.
So it's like a very large menu of things to deal with. Okay.
Yes, it's definitely, it has its complexities. And again, the sheer size of it is enormous compared with many projects. But it's also going to be, as the gentleman said before, it's going to be, a lot of people are looking forward to this, and it's going to be a great thing for the town, the region, and the state. It's a high priority for each of those levels of government.
Okay. Thank you.
Lindsay, I have a question. You know how we did the site visit to Armstrong Park? And one of the restrictions through CPC is the stone dust or whatever. It can't be an impervious surface, or maybe it can't be wood surface. Which will it matter with the rail trail?
Paul, I believe that their standards are asphalt, not stone dust or any other pervious material.
But I mean, is that okay environmentally? Is what I'm wondering.
Yes. It's the standard. It's been used on the previous phases where the rail trail actually is on the ground now.
That's true. I walked it. Yeah, I know. Okay.
It's generally an inert material. It's safe.
Okay.
Members, any other questions? Anyone in here for the public to speak? Seeing none. James, I believe I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion to approve it. I was just going to add one caveat that you do get the application in, at least apply for the Mass Trails grant, not a caveat to get it, but I would at least like to see that application go in.
Fair enough. Everyone clear what we're voting? The approving the application from the Department of Public Works requesting $300,000 in open space and recreation funds for the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 4 pre-25% design with grants to be applied for. Any further discussion? Everybody okay with the motion? Kat, go ahead.
I just, the only thing I have to add, which I understand that it's the standard to use impervious asphalt, 100% get it. But I think that we need to refrain from saying that there's no impact or potential environmental impact, because runoff from asphalt has been tracked to have some form of impact. So I think we need to, even though I think it's important for us to follow through on this, there may potentially be impacts. It's not 100% safe.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions before we vote? No comments from the public out there? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas. Terry?
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield.
Yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Farley Lewis. Harley? You're voting on the motion?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you. The next item is the application of the Department of Public Works requesting $195,000 for the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 3 engineering services. Mass DOT has committed $12.3 million for the construction of the Barnstable and Yarmouth sections of the trail. Paul, you're on again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. And thank you, Sarah, for putting that map up. So this one is a little bit more, I'm not sure if the word complex is right, but this phase right here is called Phase 3. It extends from Old Townhouse Road in Yarmouth to Mary Dunn Road in Barnstable. So that green section is where there is already a shared use path that is going to be reconstructed in Yarmouth to meet the rail trail standards. And then the red line represents where there will be new shared use path. And shared use path means a wide sidewalk, in this case, 12 feet wide, so that it can accommodate multiple bicycle and pedestrian users and similar uses. People in accessibility devices or other non-motorized transport, roller skating, for example, can use it as well. So that red section will be where it's new shared use path. And the part in Barnstable, we're only applying for funding tonight in this request for the Barnstable portion. Sarah, if you could zoom in just a little bit, please, we might be able to see the town line a little bit better. So yeah, there you can see just west of Willow Street, which is about in the middle of the map there, in the center of the map, is the Barnstable-Yarmouth town line. And so, yes, that's it. So the red line west of that line, that it's a little squiggly as it runs along the south side of Route 6, and then it turns at Mary Dunn Road and extends down a little bit past past Independence Drive, and will terminate near Israel Pond. And then in the previous presentation was where Phase 4 will pick up and have its meandering route all the way to Sandwich. So here, the town portion of Phase 3 shown here is really all within the Hyannis Ponds Wildlife Management Area, which is run by the state. And so, but the same general approach applies. It's going to be 12 feet wide. It will be paved with asphalt, and it will have the use restrictions that were previously discussed. In this project, we're requesting $195,000, and that would go toward completing final design. We're currently just about ready to submit the 100% design package to Mass DOT for their review. That will happen this spring. And then we'll also fund the remaining engineering work beyond that. There's a little bit more permitting that has to happen. There is some engineering required when we get to the bid phase for putting this out to bid, and some engineering required in the construction phase as well. So what we're requesting will cover those items. We'll also cover, some legal services that may be needed to meet the Mass DOT right-of-way requirements. To make sure we finalize the easements on this property, so the path can be in those easements, and those easements get recorded with the Registry of Deeds and all of that. But as said before, this is a critical gap right now in achieving the full rail trail from the Cape Cod Canal to Provincetown. This one is scheduled to go to construction starting in February 2024, and estimated to be in construction for 2 years through 2026. So it's very exciting that we're approaching that point, and it's very important that we're able to fund the remainder of the design that exists before us, and the following services as noted. With that, I'll turn it over for any questions, please.
Members, questions? Seeing none, I'll open it to the public. Is anyone from the public here to speak to this project? Seeing none, and you said project starts in almost a year. That's pretty good timing for this one. Be great to get that extension done, and that'll really put the pressure on to finish phase 4 once they start riding in from Sandwich on the service road. Any other question? How about a motion out there, folks?
Make a motion to pass the $195,000 for the design work for phase 3 of the rail trail.
To be funded from the open space.
To be funded from open space bucket.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Stephen will second. Everyone clear on the motion? Seeing none. Any further comments from the public? Anyone out there wish to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Charlie Lewis?
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for coming in. Next item is a review of the recreation restriction associated with the CPC application from the trustees of reservation, which is requesting $286,886 in community preservation recreation funds for a new children's play area and renovation of the existing pathway to meet ADA regulations in the Armstrong Kelly Park in Austinville. You all had a chance to look that proposed agreement over. We had asked for this grant we are awarding to be accompanied with this recreation easement, and we asked for it to be in perpetuity. Just before the meeting started, I did get a letter from the attorney representing the trustees asking if we would consider a shorter period of time. They don't feel that the funds they're being awarded are an interest. We're not acquiring an interest in the property. So they would ask us to consider a couple of things. One is to shorten the term, and their suggestion is 30 years. Or the other option that they've offered is a clawback period where we would get money in exchange if they ever decided to do something else with the property. Our issue with this property here is there's no permanent restriction on this land. It's still simply up to the Board of Trustees of the trustees. Could change the use, could limit public access, could do whatever. And by us granting them that funds, we wanted to ensure what we suggested, perpetual public access. So there's also some legal questions in this letter that I'll need to forward to our legal department. But would you all consider a shorter period of time for this restriction? I'll throw it out there for discussion. What do you all think? Terry.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to have some sort of out for the corporation if they decide to do something different with the property. I mean, having a restriction on there if I don't know if they sell the property. I don't know if we're looking for that kind of thing or just to protect our monetary investment into it. So I'm not really sure how that may work out.
Well, the notion has been made in the past about recreational improvements for property having a lifetime. In other words, they last only for so long.
Sure.
I think that's what they estimate in their suggestion of 30 years. The trails would need to be rehabilitated in 30 years. So we could either do it by time or we could do it by having a clawback provision. They would have to return the funds at some point if they wanted to do something different with the property. I sort of like that in that they would have to return the funds if they ever decided to, do something that affected public access. That's really what we're buying, is the public access. So is this something we want to act on now? We could bring it up for a vote at the next meeting once legal's had a chance to look at this arguments in this letter. They're citing several statutes. I can't.
So, Lindsay, just to clarify on the clawback option, is that there's no time associated with that?
No, they don't mention it. No.
100 years from now, if they decided to change it, they would give Barnstable CPC $287,000 back.
We could make that a condition.
If I may say, and I'm not legalistic at all, I think we should run this by legal. Number one, I don't like getting something minutes before the meeting. That's complicated for me anyway. And number two, I want to make sure the CPC regulations, I thought they were in perpetuity. So I may be wrong, but I'd like to have that. I mean, I'd like a chance to check it. I don't like this last minute stuff. They've had how many months? So
good point.
I think we ought to hold it to the next. I would suggest that we should hold it till we get some legal information from our people or our woman.
Catherine?
I 100% agree with Deb. I would really like to take a look at this information that they've submitted. It has me very concerned about their longevity with this property if they're already considering what will happen if they need to change the use. That's very concerning.
Very good. Anyone else? Why don't I send this off to legal, and I'll note that we did take it up and you're considering the two options suggested, and we'll bring it up in February. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, with me.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll get that over to legal. Okay, we did not receive any correspondence for the period. Now on to project updates. The Department of Public Works request for the Zion Union Historic Museum was approved at the council meeting. And the first read on the request of Tales of Cape Cod and their application happened on the last meeting, and we'll be looking forward to having that application read before the council February 2nd. We're still anticipating an application from DPW on the Austral Recreation Playground. We may be getting actually more through that program as the capital improvement program process moves forward. I believe they're anticipating submitting something for Centerville Rec Building and Centerville Bay Lane Recreation Area. There's been a request in for I don't know how long, Jim, forever on
Long time, yeah.
doing long time on Bay Lane. And
So, Lindsay, just on that, so project that we had funded, Centerville Playground, there's a meeting on the 31st at 4:30 for the community to help finalize equipment selection. There was some uproar that has happened in the community over some misinformation that got put out on a old drawing that showed a field being eliminated there, which is not the case. There's a change in some parking structure that might use a small piece of the field, but so there is a meeting on the 31st at 4:30 to help select the playground equipment. But just wanted to get that out there, that there has been some misinformation out there about a field being paved for a parking lot.
I believe you're right. This is a two-phase project. One is the playground, and then the field out back is separate.
Correct.
And thanks for bringing that up, Jim. That's much appreciated.
Who's saying that, Tom? Who's saying that?
I'm sorry?
Pave Paradise and put up a parking lot?
There you go.
Yeah, there was a couple groups that got a hold of a drawing at a stroll that just didn't show the field. So assumptions were made, and it got petitions and kind of got out of hand a little quick, it seems like.
Yeah, that certainly can happen. Okay. And we have yet to hear from the Masters Mills Community Church. We may just set them aside for the time being. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none. I wanted to bring up our Community Preservation Coalition dues for 2023. That's $7,900. They've done a great job getting us these matching funds. So I think that's money well invested.
Do we need a motion on that, or?
Yeah, we should.
I would make a motion. I think that's probably the best $7,900 we spend a year.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is to pay the Community Preservation Coalition dues, $7,900 for 2023, and that would come out of our admin funds, I believe. Everyone clear on the motion? I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. You had the schedule on here, Ellen, we didn't vote that, finalize that yet? I'm not sure.
I think
thought
we were
handled
supposed to look it over and then vote on it this month or something.
All right, were we?
That's the way
Okay.
I remember it. Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone okay with the schedule?
Yeah.
I guess we have to officially vote on it, so I will make the motion to approve the 2023 Community Preservation Committee meeting schedule. Terry?
Yes, and I'll second that too if it needs a second.
Thank you. Marilyn?
Yes.
Deb?
Yeah.
Converse? Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yeah.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Let's see what else. We are still working on those changes we were going to make on the CPC handbook. particularly those ones that reference the time periods for funding, and we have not completed that, but we will get on that now that the holidays are behind us. And we also needed to decide the format for the CPC. Would you like to stay with the Zoom meeting? I'm fine with it. Everyone okay with that?
Sure.
Yes.
All right, very good. I don't think we need to vote on that. That was it. Any other business?
Lindsay,
Go ahead, Catherine.
Sure. So I don't know, some of you may not know, but I'm the program manager of AmeriCorps Cape Cod. And so our program recruits 24 young people each year and brings them to the Cape. And it's a county-run program where we receive some federal funding to make that happen. And our members are conducting environmental and disaster preparedness work with a variety of town departments, nonprofit entities, and so on. The reason I'm bringing this up is to just let all of you know in your respective other committees that we will be opening up individual placement applications for different town departments sometime in March. And so if you're interested in learning more about what you might be able to do to have an AmeriCorps member support your efforts and support the town, we've been very involved with the town of Barnstable as partners. And so just wanted to put it out there so that all of you can share it with your respective counterparts within the town. And if there's anything that AmeriCorps can do, all you need to do is just reach out to me.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. AmeriCorps has done some amazing work in this town and on the Cape over the years. Amazing stuff. Anything else? Go ahead, Jim.
I don't think we've gotten a housing trust report for a while.
I just spoke with Elizabeth Jenkins on that. They are going to be coming in. I'll try to get them in for February.
Perfect.
Good. Because they haven't had a couple of meetings, or they've reduced their meeting schedule, and a lot of it stopped because of government needs, so it's kind of frustrating. And we're going to ask for the Housing Authority, we're going to ask Jillian to be our annual meeting speaker. So
excellent.
Be catching up with her then.
Very good. Any other business?
is there any update on the Cotuit Federated Church and the historic preservation restriction?
No, they've submitted all the submitted a ton more information, and we have heard nothing back.
Okay, thank you.
I can just speak quickly to that, if I could, Lindsay.
Yes.
The church has been in correspondence with the state and have yet heard back from the state. So they did a follow-up a week or so ago and still haven't heard back. So that's pending.
We'll look for that coming in, hopefully soon.
Thank
you.
All
right, anything else? Marilyn?
No, I was just saying thank you. That's all.
All right, great. Anyone, any final comment from the public? Questions? Anything? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Oh, I said yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
James Tenalia?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll get on these projects and see you in February.
Thanks for the copies, Ellen.